I can't help but feel like a lot of the blame has to be placed on the Democratic Party. There's a lot of potential explanations, but this is a catastrophic fumble. Part of it is a broader rejection of liberalism around the globe. A lot of incumbents got smoked in comparable nations, but that's kind of the issue. Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party ran a campaign that was mortified of breaking with Joe Biden, the guy that she was chosen to replace, who had the party's nomination ripped out of his hands after a terrible debate. She feverishly associated herself with an unpopular incumbent president and refused to break from him on any of his bad policy decisions, whether it's his disastrous foreign policy, which was discouraging people from voting for him, or terrible immigration policy that was capitulating to the right the entire time, which Republicans are going to have an advantage on. And on top of all of that, the Democrats ran a fundamentally conservative campaign that was built on appealing to people that were never going to vote for Kamala Harris. The coalition from Dick Cheney to Taylor Swift doesn't exist. You cannot look at this map and think that a few more rallies with Liz Cheney would have just done the trick. This is a narrative problem, one that Democrats are going to have to learn to overcome. But she also broadly ignored left-wing populist policy that won elsewhere in the country on the same day. And this isn't me saying that she just needs to adopt all of my leftist positions, then she'd be popular. I think that would be a bit reductive. She just needed to be somebody that wasn't so in line with the status quo that everybody detests. I mean, she had Tim Walz as the vice presidential pick on the ticket, the universal free school lunch guy, and that policy wasn't even present in the rhetoric. Even generic liberal moderate Democrats won in swing states where she lost. The potential Democratic coalition is out there, and people in swing states are willing to vote for Democrats, but not if they run a campaign like she did. In my opinion, she ran a worse campaign than Joe Biden did in 2020 that was built off appealing to conservatives far too much. And she did all of this at the expense of marginalized groups that will suffer under a second Trump administration. I've already seen a bunch of liberals blaming Muslim and Arab voters or Hispanic voters or even third-party voters, and I think this fundamentally misses the mark. First of all, the margins in swing states weren't even close enough for third-party votes to make up the deficit. She lost those all on her own accord. Second of all, major electoral losses across basically every demographic group should lead you to blame the campaign and the party infrastructure. So I really don't have much patience for people that are blaming marginalized groups who will suffer the most under a Trump administration for a loss to a guy who is imminently beatable, who has lost before. Generational crashouts like what we saw on Tuesday should be cause for introspection, not only for the DNC, but for the liberal ideology as a whole. We are in an age of populism. Voters are tired of this liberal deference to institutions and U.S. global hegemony. Biden made himself the protector of this ideology, and Kamala Harris did not do enough to separate herself from him. The Democratic Party has nobody to blame but themselves, and I fear no lessons will really be learned. Stay safe, make friends with your neighbors, try to lock in. It's going to be a rough few years.